Meeting in order, regular council meeting of December 16th, 2019.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilperson, Mayor Laughlin.
Here.
Discombobulated. Councilperson Ellison.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Goodweiler.
Yeah, here. Sorry.
Stillman.
Yeah.
I want to say yes.
Okay, we're going to start off with Todd Baldridge of Baldridge Environmental, review of the wastewater pilot project.
You all set?
Yeah.
Good evening. No, that's fine.
Todd Baldridge.
Thank you. Good evening, West Branch City Council. My name is Todd Baldridge. It's been a privilege to work with your team in reducing the sludge and improving the health of your existing wastewater system. Before we started, we collected a lot of data. This data includes ammonia, total volatile solids, TSS, dissolved oxygen, heterotrophic plate counts, sludge depths. The results prove that you have some challenges with your existing system. The past spring, we began introducing a safe aerobic bacteria as well as applying an enhanced dissolved oxygen into your system. For those of you that aren't familiar with that, aerobic bacteria require dissolved oxygen to fuel the breakdown of the toxic waste, of the wastewater. Like when you run down the road and you're breathing heavy, your body is requiring dissolved oxygen into your system in order to fuel the cells. Well, the bacteria that's in that water requires oxygen to come out of the air, turn into dissolved oxygen in the water into a liquid, and that fuels the process to them work hard, so they can work hard. As we tracked the data after we started the treatment, we noticed that the sludge had reduced. We had reduced the cubic feet, increased your capacity. So as you're taking away the sludge, the bacteria is eating it, digesting it. As you're taking that away, you're increasing the capacity of your system, which is a big problem what you guys have. One of the problems. So you're gaining back the time and the capacity to treat the wastewater. This we also seen increased heterotrophic plate counts. This is a way of measuring how many bacteria are breaking down the waste. So in the beginning, we were less than 200. It was a very low number, which is a concern. Throughout the process, we were able to get it up to 10,000, 20, 50,000, and within that range, it would. Those were the parameters. That was about the range. Often we see it in the millions. When everything's dialed in and working correctly and it's just a real healthy system, you can see those numbers in the millions. So, but we did increase it several thousand. By addressing these variables, it assisted your treatment process to work a little bit better. We have seen lowered ammonia, raised dissolved oxygen, as you have improved the health of that system. We still have total solids and sludge issue. So total solids is the sludge that is not organic or not volatile. It cannot be eaten up, digested by applying dissolved oxygen bacteria. That's sand, grit, pebbles, stones. That is still in there. There still will be a percentage of that in there that will have to be addressed. The data is being provided to your city as the tests go on, and what this data does is gives you and your team and your engineers the opportunity to have good data, make good decisions, and have options for your system. Currently, your system, well, let's just say they all cost a lot of money. But if you have good data on your system with these new bubble sizes and the new technology, then you can potentially save some money in your new design, right? The bubble technology. In the last 30 years, your system's what, 25, 30 years old? In the last 30 years, the technology, the bubble sizes, and the way we produce dissolved oxygen in the water, it's changed. It is advanced. So, you know, as you're looking at your new system, you could utilize some of these new technologies and potentially save yourselves some funds and also just better build a system that is better suited for you guys. In the last 30 years, there's been advancements in bacteria. The bacteria are safe, they are focused, they are aggressive, they do a better job of digesting the sludge and the waste with the dissolved oxygen provided. It just makes for a more efficient system. So these are things that throughout this test, this data is showing you potential tools that could be useful to you and your engineers as you want to move forward. With this data that we're providing to your engineers, they can have more choices, more treatment options, and that could potentially save your city energy and money. My team and Toolbox are focused on reducing your sludge. The pilot study is complete. As we continue to reduce sludge, more data is provided. One way to look at this is to understand that in order for you guys to dredge cell number 1, that's the first pond, it's going to cost approximately $750,000. So the total volatiles are about 26% when we started. Maybe we can take out a third of that sludge utilizing the dissolved oxygen in the bacteria. That's about $250,000. Now, if it costs $125,000 throughout the whole time of the sludge reduction and the data collecting, then your city has saved $125,000. But in that process, in removing that much sludge, now of course you still have to deal with the total solids, the sludge that you cannot digest. But through that process, we're gathering that data and providing it for you. Good data, good decisions, right? So that's really what we're providing. There are still challenges with the process as low plate counts. We recognize that there was high biological oxygen demand loads at certain times. That would be something that I would recommend that you determine where that source is or what that issue is. We saw challenges with your pH at times, variables that often you don't see in just a normal system, which they're all, every one of these are solvable problems. It's just a matter of test, figure out what's going on, and address it appropriately. I recommend that we continue the sludge reduction treatment until a majority of the total volatile solids have been digested and you guys have the data that you need to make good decisions. We know the tools are working from this test. We know that the sludge is reducing, that the health of the system is getting better and it's going in the right direction. We still have a ways to go, but the tools do work. Now it's just a matter of how can we adjust the placement of the tools, how can we change some things around to make it more effective. And again, the data is showing us how to do that. So as we move forward, those are the things. It's going to get better. We're going to get better at treating it. We're going to get better at positioning the equipment and how we do this process. My team believes that West Branch would be a good option for us to work on our Iowa Economic Development Grant, which we are going to utilize our team and our toolbox at wastewater facilities like yours. And our job with that grant is to continue to treat the wastewater, but then determine how much energy savings we could have. So right now let's say you have 30 horsepower running all the time out there. I don't know what that costs you a month, but let's just say $3,000. If we can get the same amount of dissolved oxygen in there to fuel the biochemical the biochemical reaction that we need to break this down, then by utilizing a more efficient bubble, we could potentially reduce that from 30 horsepower, $3,000 a month. And I don't know how much that costs for that 30 horsepower, but we could reduce it potentially down to 15 horsepower, saving $1,500 a month. More efficient system, energy savings, and that's what the grant for Iowa Economic Development is for. They're going to have their scientists and engineers look at that and see how much money they could save the state and the municipalities from that grant, from that 2-year grant that we're going to do in the next 2 years. Just keep in mind, at the end of the day, we're here to reduce volatile sludge and find more cost-effective ways to provide you with the good data and assist you in making good decisions as a city. Is there any questions?
What are the exact numbers? The numbers are good from the DNR.
Correct. On previous years, like 2017, previous years, your September, October ammonia limits were, if I recall, 5 to 7. Your permit says they need to be below 2.6. For those months, we were able to get it to a 1. Now, as November's approaching and that sludge is in that cell, with your reduced capacity, that water on top is getting colder faster, and as the water cools, the bacteria slow down. So we're still seeing that problem, but the thing to keep in mind is that when we had enough capacity and warm enough water, that the tools are working. Dissolved oxygen previously was not above 5, and often we have steadily increased the amount of dissolved oxygen into the water.
Are you using now the nano bubble
Yes, sir.
technology that you explained to me one time?
Yes, sir.
You're using that now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we've actually developed a Generation 4 and Generation 5 system that we could achieve that nano bubble and that micro bubble with less horsepower and less upfront
So
costs.
you were just talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? How long are you on board for still?
I'm sorry.
How long do we have you for still?
In the city or
Yeah,
on the
city.
project? I don't know about the city. I am traveling to Asia this winter and to other places, but I don't know the answer to that. I plan on staying here a few years until my daughter graduates college at least.
Okay, no, I meant your system.
Oh, the system. I recommend we'd run it for another year and track the data and see where the total volatile solids wind up. And when we're not able to reduce the sludge by using the bacteria, that would be a good time for us to look at the data and see how to move forward. We could also have data on the new equipment that would reduce the horsepower, satisfy the economic development grant. So next year at this time, we could look at the project and just see where the data leads us at that time.
Okay.
maybe I'm missing it here somewhere, but I guess at the end of the day, what we're really wanting to know, because we're gonna be sitting down talking about budget, is
Yeah.
is there going to be an expense to this, which I'm sure you don't do anything for nothing,
Well, I try not to.
and, you know, so we can decide if that's something we want to fit into our budget.
Yeah, that's fine. The equipment out there, we would typically rent that to a city like this for $20,000 to $30,000 a year. We're willing to leave the equipment, run it, maybe find a way. You guys currently own that shipping container. I think you have $4,250 in it. So if there's a way, I don't know how to account for that, how to trade for that, or how to do that, but we're willing to leave that there for a year, rent-free, if we could have the container at the end of the project. The bacteria would cost approximately $20,000. That is, that's a lot of bacteria. But we're still in that stage of trying to break this down and do it quickly, and that's the reason for that. The typically, yeah, it would be $100,000 a year if I was sitting here charging you full price. If I did not live here, if I did not need the data from this project in order to move to other cities and the League of Cities and help save the state money and deal with their issues, the bill would be much higher. I do tend to charge a lot more than that.
So it needs to be recharged with bacteria again in the spring.
I recommend, well, okay, so as the bacteria is slowing down out in the lagoon because your water is so shallow, it's supposed to be 10 foot deep, but it's shallow, so that water's cooling down, slowing down your bacteria. What I recommend is placing 1 bag a week, 1 kilo a week, you activate it, and then we go upstream and we find a safe area, a pump pit or a pump station, manhole, where we apply that bacteria. Now what that does, that bacteria, it doubles in population every 20 minutes, 72 times a day. So you start with 1 million, 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, 72 times a day, every 20 minutes. So as that bacteria goes into that pipeline here in the cold winter, we're utilizing that as a nursery. So that's water typically stays 50, 55 degrees. That's a good range for the bacteria. They're populating, they're working, and they're beginning to break your waste down as it comes down. That's reducing your load that's on the system. We're actually going to be getting a treatment from that while it's in your system. Now, as that nursery is repopulating, it's going out into the system, it hits your cold water, and it slows down. But when that water gets warm again, they will wake back up and come back and do their job. Now in the springtime, when the waters get warmer, we're going to apply more bags to the cells to work on your total volatiles.
Okay.
So yes, throughout the winter, I would recommend a treatment. I would recommend throughout the next year, recommend continuing with the bacteria. I've been putting bags in for the last month and a half that I haven't charged for. Just because I didn't know what the city council's answer was, and I wanted to continue with the progress that we have.
Let me also add, because Tom talks in science, and I just wanted to let everyone know that our last test results came in compliance with the 2022 requirements. So this is what we're hoping to achieve with the SAGAR process, which we approved. We're achieving, at least in the warmer months, we're showing progress, and our last results show that we had fall within those guidelines. So I think that would be the first time that's happened with our current system. I'll stand corrected if Matt has any other data that, yeah. So this is something that we got in at a really low cost because we got in on the ground floor, and Todd's also a resident, so we're getting some hometown discounts, and
Yes, sir.
we're happy to be getting that as well. but this is working, so.
Okay, I guess I'd like him to give us, can you give us a proposal to continue the next year? And
Yeah, it's $20,000 for the bacteria and the container for all that equipment out there running. Another thing, not to interrupt you, is so we were able to achieve those numbers in September and October in compliance for your 2022, in which previous years you were not able to do, correct? So that proves those tools work. So let's say we get rid of that 5 foot of sludge. You know, you've got 10-foot lagoon out there in cell 1. Half of it's full of sludge, at least half of it. So if you had the whole 10 foot, that water at the bottom would stay warmer. And the bacteria could work down there. And your system's designed to do that. The reason why your system's not working correctly, one of the reasons, is because of that sludge. So we get to the end of the year, or when the volatile solids are gone, as much as possible, and you dredge that out, and we get that capacity back, and then see what the numbers are, then we could potentially get through November, December. Another thing that we could do, which we're doing in Wayland, is we've moved that system to the manhole right before cell number 1. So right now, out at West Branch, it's pulling. The water's cooling down. It's getting treated. It has the bacteria in it, and then on the other end, we're grabbing it and we're oxygenating, and then sending it up to the influent. Okay, that's cold water. It's not ideal, but that's where our electricity was. That's why we set this system up that way, just so we could have data to educate us on how to make the move. Now that manhole, right before it gets into the system, that water's at 55 degrees. It's got your nursery with your bacteria coming down. So if you take that water when it's at 55 degrees and you oxygenate it, what that oxygen is doing is breaking down your biological oxygen demand, and it's breaking down your ammonia when the water's warm. So all winter long, even when it's 30 below, you're oxygenated at the prime time. That would be a recommendation, something that we could consider next year. So yeah, we've seen the benefits, but get the sludge out of the way. Hit it when the water's warmer. Look at the data and see what other adjustments needs to be made. That's part of the 1 year recommendation.
Could our pump station be utilized as that point of entry, since it's right there? And it's, there's not much that comes in after that.
Right. Does that bring in most of the waste from the city into that pump station?
Yes.
all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, about the only thing that wouldn't would be like maybe some of the
Oh, yeah.
industrial stuff.
No, that would be ideal. Actually, nothing against the industrial stuff, but there's variables out there. So we don't want the potential chemicals, the antifreeze, or any cleaning agents that could negatively impact the plate count, negatively impact the bacteria. So what's coming from you guys is pretty standard waste. And so the less chemicals and less variables we have, and we hit it hard at that point, we have to see. So we're getting dissolved oxygen limits as it comes out of the machine at 38 part per million. That's very significant.
Okay, that's good information.
And as we saw those spikes in your biological oxygen demand load, there were times when the dissolved oxygen coming into your system was at 0.1, 0.2. That's a very good indicator that water is very unhealthy, that it doesn't have any dissolved oxygen. The bacteria has taken all the oxygen out of that water and worked on that load, so it's down there. It's pretty low.
Okay.
So we're starting way low, and we're coming out of your effluent now. The limit is 5 part per million on your 2022 DNR. Matt, do you know how much we're coming out of effluent-free or dissolved oxygen, I think it was 10.
I honestly don't.
Yeah, yeah, we've seen 10, like August, September, we've seen it up to 10. So you're double, which is good, what the DNR says that you have to do to be in compliant with 2022. They say 5, we're at 10. We doubled it.
Matt, what do we have in the container, money-wise?
With all the electrical work that we had, maybe six.
Six.
Okay.
Or even something like
Yeah, I wanna keep thinking about this. It seems like it's a winner so far, so we need to, talk about it at budget time. But that's next year's budget. Wrong time. Half of it.
So you guys can discuss it much further once I leave the room. I understand how that works.
So, nice job. Well,
All right,
it's exciting.
All right.
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
All right. We have 2 outgoing council people that,
Unexpected cheers from the crowd.
come on. So, Redmond, we prepared a proclamation for you guys to hang it on your wall, in your den, your kitchen. So I'm going to read the proclamation, and it's a proclamation of thanks. And we truly do thank you guys. Whereas the position of elected office, also known as city council person, is a time-honored and vital position in local government. And whereas Brian Pierce and Jordan Ellison has served in the role of the city council person for the city of West Branch during the period of 2014 and 2012 for you to January of 2020. And whereas during their tenure as members of the governing body of the city of West Branch, Brian and Jordan's leadership was critical to the operations and accomplishments of several important municipal public services and investments. And whereas West Branch citizens are fortunate to have had the benefit of Mr. Pierce's wisdom and Miss Jordan's wisdom, stewardship, and dedication. And now therefore be it proclaimed by the mayor and the city council of the city of West Branch its appreciation for the work and contributions Brian and Jordan have made for the benefit of their fellow citizens, the city of West Branch, and agencies of government at all levels. Hereby delivered this 16th day of December 2019 by the mayor of the city of West Branch. So I want to thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thanks, cool.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And now we will swear in our 2 new members. 3 members, correct? So Jerry and Tom and Colton, we're gonna stand up front because that's where Becky wants us. Sorry about that. And I will swear you in. You're gonna face the camera somewhere up there. This is gonna be cool. Jerry.
And Roger. And then I'll sign them, get those back to me, and then I'll get everything started.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna swear you in. Ready? I, state your names. All right. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa.
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all duties of the office of City Council
discharge all duties of the City Council
in the city of West Branch as now and hereafter required by law.
as now and hereafter.
Thank you
Welcome, guys.
That was terribly cumbersome. It'll get better.
It's tough, it's
That
tough
was my
every
good.
time. It's always
Do all
too many words.
two lines together.
Too many words.
6 and 8 years.
I'm glad I'm not getting sworn in.
Lawyer
so.
with the road.
My name is Mike Freyoff. I'm a member of the West Branch.
Next is Mike Freoff from Parking Board.
All right, sorry about that. I got ahead of myself. My name is Mike Freyoff. I'm with the West Branch Parks and Rec Committee. I'm here to present the Parks and Rec's recommendation for revising the city's alcohol policy. So you should have in your handouts what the new verbiage is. Here's just talking points.
Thank you.
And at some point I have a statement I want to read
Okay.
from the nursing homes.
Would you like to start with that? Or
I guess I could. So I got a letter, an email today, Leslie did, and handed it to me. This is from Ken Nelson. He's a divisional director of Care Initiatives. I think he's out of West Des Moines.
Yep, that's right.
Who may concern, this is to the city council. It is in our opinion that we would be good for the city allowing the consumption of alcohol in the city park adjacent to our facility for special circumstances and events approved by the city. We don't feel that allowing consumption of alcohol at all times would be good for our facility, as we feel it could become a potential nuisance situation for the facility and the residents we serve. Sir, thank you, Ken Nelson. That's a statement from Care Initiatives. That's their official stance. They approve alcohol under special circumstances and events sponsored by the city, approved by the city.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, we didn't have that information when we were discussing this. Sure, fine. So, the city put out Melissa put out a survey for, to address this issue. We had 93 people respond. If you look at the second page of your handout, I've kind of Paretoed out the numbers there. The changes that we're making, the only change, we presently have Bronick Park where we have the consumption of alcohol. The only change in regards to that is we're adding the park hour going to 6 o'clock in the morning instead of 7 o'clock in the morning. What we've done is we've added certain parks to have the same guidelines as Bronick Park. And that was some stuff that was found in our surveys. So if you look at the locations on your graph there, one thing to point out, Heritage Square scored like 4th highest as a request. Heritage Square is a small square on downtown next to a couple of bars. We didn't really think that was appropriate as a park and rec, as a place to drink alcohol. There's not too many sporting events that go on down there in the square. So that was intentionally left off of one of the locations that we would have it. So. Selling, one thing that was brought up was the city selling alcohol. We're pretty unanimous that we did not agree that that would be a good policy to have. A lot of administration, just a lot of headaches. I mean, that was something that was discussed a couple of times. I think there were some people who were in favor of that. Again, in the survey, you can see it didn't really score very high on the survey. So, permissions. Now, this is probably, again, and this is based on a little bit what you just read. So there's a lot of discussion as far as, do we keep it as Bronick Park where you can do it, everybody has to be as adults. There's a lot of feedback, including from the police department, having in order to have alcohol, you'd have to have a permission first before doing it. So again, a lot of discussion on that. The recommendation from the Parks and Rec was not to go with that, to have it as the same as Brawny Park. So, and as far as limitations go, there was more discussion as far as should you have alcohol if there's kids events. There was not any provisions for no glass, so that was one thing that was added to it. No liquor. The decision was that it would be okay to have kids present, as long as there's adults there. And again, there's a broad statement in this that exceptions can be made with special approval by either Parks and Rec or by the city. So, one other thing you might that was noted is back in locations, specifically Lions Field, primarily a kid's soccer field. Again, the thought was that just really didn't fit the mold as far as what the intent was, is for adult events and education. So, any questions? One thing to point out is there's 2 chapters in the regulations that's addressed. 45 is kind of a general one. The only change to that is the addition to the locations that we're recommending. If you look at chapter 47, I think this is on, you guys have already gotten this stuff. Again, the change from 7 a.m. to 6 a.m. is park hours, and then the bulk of the changes right there in 47.07, the alcohol consumption, that just lists the issues that I just discussed.
Where was the survey put out at?
What's the one with all that?
So we put out flyers at Jack and Jill and at the post office. We put it on the website. There was an ad in the paper that went out on October 30th. Survey was available on the website if they wanted to fill it out online. There was also copies at the library here at the city office and in the Park and Rec office. So there was discussion about should we have done a community-wide survey. This was just kind of a quick, are we on the right track? You know what I mean? That was it, and it's always an option to take it out to the bigger community if needed, but.
There were 93 responses for manner.
It's pretty good, really.
Yeah, I think you're considering
Informal survey.
surveys. So any questions?
See, it says just beer and wine. What does that mean for all the new fancy Trulies or whatever they're called, stuff like that? What does that fall under?
Yeah,
That's a Kevin question.
basically it's no liquor. Yeah, that's what we have lawyers for.
Liquor, reading the definition of liquor, I'd have to figure out I don't drink those things. I have no idea what their percentage is. But the definition of liquor is like that long in the state code. So that
I'm sure it has to do with alcohol percentage.
yes, it does. So and how it's distilled or whatever they do to it.
And that
So
will be allowed.
no, I don't think that anybody.
That's not
no,
what we're recommending.
No.
So.
And liquor, you would need a permit from the state. You can't do liquor in the public place without a permit. I don't believe. Right. No person shall use or consume alcoholic liquor in any public place except by premises covered by a liquor license. So you couldn't have a liquor in the park anyways unless they had a permit for it.
Oh, interesting.
Sure. So, again, this is the recommendation based on the material, the information that we had at the time. So,
Okay.
any more questions? Or?
Looks like it does say in here about during minor organized events, so that organized activities involving minors. That kind of was my thing. You don't need to start a cattle yard deal like Regina has. That parents of 5th graders sit out in the outfield and tailgate all
Pound it
day
down.
during the game.
Right. That's kind of the thought with Lions Field. Most of it's going to be spectators watching kids play soccer, so that's not the intent of what we were trying to get for.
Okay, so this is a recommendation forwarded to us.
Yep.
For, we'll get it on our agenda to,
It'll be a discussion item on the 6th, January.
versus a resolution or a ordinance change.
You usually start with discussion.
We'll start with discussion? Okay, all right.
Kevin, have you had time to review this?
Yeah, I know. I reviewed the state code in there, so you can the way we've got the ordinance written too. I've looked at the ordinances too, so you just have to add the park in there if you wanted to do that with the and the state code does allow you to do that. I mean, we don't have to allow it, but you do have the opportunity to allow or disallow it in the beer. Liquor is not allowed without a permit, but the wine and beer would be under the state code. But the way you have the ordinance written is you're only allowed in Baronic and the other places with permission or at this point. So you have to add Covey Park in,
Yeah.
like
And-
they've done.
Right, and the intent was to keep it the same through all the parks that were to allow it. So,
Yep,
I like that.
that's the way the ordinance is written right now. So there wouldn't be, as Mike said, there wouldn't be that many changes to it.
yeah, it's relatively small.
If you did nothing, it wouldn't be allowed. Well,
Okay.
so, because you have an ordinance that says it's only allowed here, you'd have to, the way the ordinance is written is you need a little tweak on it because it talks about liquor. You'd have to say no person shall use or consume liquor without a liquor license or wine and beer unless it's in these places. That was just something when I was reviewing the ordinance. We just need to, in the state code, beer, wine, and liquor have 3 different definitions. So you gotta clarify that second sentence a little bit better. But
Because it says alcohol.
well, it says alcoholic liquor is one term. It doesn't. So wine, beer, alcoholic liquor, 3 different things. So right now state code says you can't have alcoholic liquor without a permit, and your ordinance says the intent is you can't do wine or beer except at these places. So
Okay.
when we do the ordinance again, we'll
That get
tweak
tweaked,
that.
that'll get tweaked.
And you can't do anything on school property. That's state code too.
So we discussing this tonight or January?
January.
All right, so we'll talk about it next time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Public comment, if anyone here wishes to address the council, the general public, we'd love to hear what you have to say, we cannot act. Anyone here wish to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to item G1, consent agenda. So, give me a motion, someone to approve the minutes of the last council meeting of December 2nd. Approve a Herb & Lou's liquor license for Herb & Lou's. Huey Lewis in the name. Approve a motion to, for appointments and reappointments to the various boards, which we have our list of. Why don't I'm gonna read those real quick. We have Gina Hike, a 3-year term on the Animal Control Commission. Lisa Johnson for a 3-year term on the Animal Control Commission. Angie Miller, a 3-year term on the Park and Rec Commission. Kristen Rude, a 3-year term on the Park and Rec Commission. Liz Sieberling, a 3-year term on the Historic Preservation Commission. Karen Suckamel, a 3-year term on the Historic Preservation Commission. Frank Frostestad will be a reappointment for the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And we still have open a position on the Zoning Board of Adjustment, as well as a P&Z appointment, or 2, just 1. So we have, is there any Park and Rec commissions open?
Park and Rec's full.
That's full, okay. Okay, so, tonight's appointments will be for those people, as well as Matt Van Scoyoc for the Planning and Zoning Committee, John Fuller, a reappointment for the Planning and Zoning Committee, and Sally Peck for a reappointment. Matt Van Scoyoc would be a new member to replace Tom Dean. So those are under consideration. Need a motion to approve the West Branch Fire Department officers. Also the West Branch Fire Volunteer, Fire and Rescue Constitution and Bylaws. Pay estimate number 8 for the College Street Bridge replacement. And the claims report. Would someone give me a motion to approve all of that, please? Brian Pierce and Jordan will second. Any discussion? Guess I would call, pay estimate number 8. Is this the final, besides the retainage?
This gets us to 98%, then we'll have to go through a few things with DOT, and if there are any revisions made, we have a couple of minor items they picked up, but once we get past the audit and get everything rectified, that'll be the final pay estimate minus retainage. And there'll be a 3% retainage that's due after we accept the project.
Okay.
Or $30,000, I think it is the maximum that DOT allows, rather.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Nice to there.
Yeah,
Bridge is great,
it is.
yeah.
They did well with the driveways for everybody too, I thought.
Mhm. I don't think there's anybody unhappy about it. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. You did, I got
Yeah,
it.
we did.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, we'll vote then.
Councilperson Pierce,
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Yeah.
Item 1, third reading, final reading, amending, reading of ordinance 771, sewer and service charges, chapter 99.02, sewer rate. Give me a motion, someone, to do the final reading of reading ordinance 771. Jordan and Colton will
Mayor?
second.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Where's this extra money gonna go?
For the sewer rate
Correct.
increase.
The only reason I asked that is 12 years ago when I was on the council, we knew this new sewer was coming. We raised the water rates to pay for it. Where's that money at?
This money specifically is,
That money was specifically to pay for the sewer system also. Could I make a
Did that go
suggestion?
for the
no,
lift
not
station?
yet. Let me finish. You asked me a question, let me finish that.
Did that go for the lift station potentially?
Maybe that was the lift station, the $1 million lift station.
There is
No, it's
That
money,
was about 8 years ago, though.
there is money in our budget that we had been allocating from the sewer and water funds to go to pay general obligation bonds. Last year, we didn't do it because we were able to take money, levy taxes, and use that money to pay some debt, other debts. But there has been money allocated or removed from the sewer and water fund to pay general obligation debt.
Related to sewer
There
and
is-
water issues?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Debt?
that,
Yeah.
yes. Matt Muckler had been budgeting them. He felt that the sewer and water fund should pay their own way.
Okay, to answer your question still, this specifically is to help us raise money for a potential new sewer plant,
I realize that.
upgrades to the sewer plant.
I realize that. But what I'm saying is 12 years ago, we did the exact same thing when I was on the council, and that money's not around anymore. What my suggestion would be to take a certain percentage of that and put it in an escrow account. That way, the people of West Branch know that we're not spending it.
Is that possible?
Well, I'm not an attorney. I don't know the legal thing. but
Opening up a
the
new
money
account,
would go
you mean.
into the sewer fund
Yeah.
and it would remain there. We wouldn't be able to spend it for anything but sewer related.
But I know what he's saying, I guess I assumed we were putting a new budget line item or something, or a new bucket or something to dump that extra
Right.
into, or we
That
Yeah, I
was
thought we were
very
creating a new bucket to put
That
this
was-
And
money
once-
into.
Not
Once you-
for this.
Once you do your SRF loan, you can't touch that. the
what
money
I'm
will be, you can't, once you enter your SRF loan to do your project, that money has to be, this money you're collecting has to go towards
Right,
pay
but
that.
can't we make,
Yeah, I mean, you can put a line that says sewer plant in your budget, there's no problem with that. That says, I mean, but here's the thing, the council has to, the council can't, there's nothing that says the council can't take it and say, I'm gonna use it on a sewer line break somewhere. I'm just saying that. You can put it in a line on there.
Still take it.
With changing
Yeah.
people though, it at least identifies what that money's intended for,
The increase part, not just,
Yes, the increase.
Yeah.
the increase, not the
Not
rest
the
of it.
regular, we're
No.
saying the increase is just to pay for
No,
the
and
new
and
system.
the second reason why we were doing it now, Tom, is because they said we're gonna double, the rate's gonna have to double. That's what it's gonna have to do.
I realize that.
So it wouldn't be fair to our residents to say you're paying $8 per thousand now. Hey, guess what? Today we're gonna raise it to 16. I mean, that's a tough pill for some people to swallow. So if you gradually raise it up, then it's not gonna be such a big shock for them. And then in the,
I realize that, Colton, but what I'm saying is,
no, I
we
get,
tried that 12 years ago, and Gordon just said you took money out of the sewer to go into the general funds.
No, we didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No, we did not take money out of the sewer to pay general fund. We have actually paid some general obligation bonds with
the general obligation
with general
was
fund
for
money.
sewer
We
projects?
didn't take the money
Where
out
I'm
of
going
the
with
sewer.
this is, I'm against, raising taxes and raising rates is one thing, but if you raise rates and you have a specific fund that money goes into, that the public can see,
right,
instead of going into the,
just going into the big kitty.
yeah.
Right,
Okay, we'll
Just
work
say-
on that. That's-
Just
that's
say,
something.
hey, you know what, this is our, our slush fund that we have that we're gonna do to pay the sewer.
I mean, do you call it this, the sewer reconstruction fund
Yeah.
or whatever, and,
Give it a
kinda
number.
like the fire department has a truck fund.
right.
You just,
We don't need any more trucks in the sewer department.
no. That's not what I'm saying.
I know.
It's gonna have a project fund balance. That's essentially what you're saying. And Kevin's right, once SORF is engaged, then all of that, that's a whole new ballgame then, and they're definitely going to demand that those funds be there. And
They'll be
used.
pledged to pay the
Yeah.
debt back. For your 2% interest that you're getting.
So our update today was kind of almost basically like, our Hail Mary seems to be potentially working pending the replay.
Right.
What happens if we approve this tonight, and then a year from now, we're like, you know what? DNR's good with what we're doing, we don't have to build a new system.
You can change, the new council can change the ordinance.
I understand that, but what happens to that money that we've already collected?
Well, we're going to have
Lower the
to.
rates.
We could reduce the rates for
Yeah.
8 months until that money is given back and then raise it back up.
That's what I just want to understand, because I wasn't sure if this is worth tabling for a little bit, or if it was.
That's gonna be my question.
Let me add just a couple of things that we have to do no matter what system. We have to add a UV system to our current system. We don't have, that's going to be required. We're also going to have a new lagoon.
Yeah, third lagoon.
So that's at least anywhere from $1 million to $2.5 million.
Gotcha.
And that's just for growth, not because DNR is saying.
Well, the
that
UV is because DNR,
Yes,
yeah.
but like the other lagoon, that's for growth,
That's
for
growth
the
and our,
town, for
we've
20
put that off.
years.
Yeah, we kind of put that off for a while, and DNR has allowed us to do that because we knew we were going through this process. So the system, I hope that some of the things that Todd says will give us some more storage space in our current system, but we definitely need that too to keep up with the
Well,
growth.
you're still gonna have to drudge
We need to
what we
dredge it.
have.
And we're gonna have to do that.
That could be part of this too.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be pricey.
But
But it's
before
gonna-
it gets up to the third increase, we could always stop
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah, I don't, if this happens, I don't think we're gonna need 3 years. I foresee maybe 1.5, but
Just as long
there's
as we
still,
stay on
there's
that.
still a lot of I talked with Dave, so this is not a slam dunk. We still gotta go through the bureaucracy of DNR to say,
But
hey,
we could have
even though these numbers are showing you that it's working, they want to understand the process of how it's working and.
No, absolutely. It was
Yeah.
just, it was positive direction tonight, but far from over.
Right.
I get that. I just wanted to understand better before we voted on this, what it means, should we not actually need to build the new system, but we have costs that I wasn't aware of regardless, so that,
This will help pay for that.
yep.
Yeah, those are the costs. Okay, any other discussion? Let's vote then on our third and final reading to approve sewer service charges.
Councilperson Ellison?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Goodweiler?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
Okay, why did I do that? Okay, we have a public hearing. Regarding amending the current budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, is anyone here to address this amendment? If they can understand it. Okay, I will exit the public hearing and then we'll move on to Resolution 1862, approving a budget amendment and certification. If I get a motion for that, someone, Gordon's gonna give us an explanation, which I think is Nick and Brian. And then, I think it's really simple, you've explained it to me once, so you go ahead.
We did not complete some projects in fiscal year 19. And we had money budgeted for those, but we didn't budget for that in fiscal year 20. Now we finally finished those projects and we need to budget the money in fiscal 20. Essentially, that's what it is. We have over $500,000 left in the Cubby Park Fund. We thought we were going to get that thing completed by June 30 of 19. We did not. So we have to.
Basically, it's not new costs to us. It's just,
No, no.
It's just
It's money budgeted
Paperwork.
a year and a
It's
half
just
ago.
keeping the auditors happy.
Paperwork.
keeping the
Yeah,
auditors
that essentially that's what we're doing.
You went over a line item on a line in the budget, so every time you do a project over 2 years, you have to do this.
That's what is happening. And I did add some money for the relocation of the utilities in the I-80 widening project. We may or may not spend that money, but we'll at least have it budgeted. And we'll also be receiving money from the state for whatever we spend. So it's not really going to cost us anything. There'll be a little timing issue, but
Okay, thank you. You explained that once to me and it's difficult sometimes. Does that make sense, everyone? Let's vote.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ellison?
Yes.
All right, this is good news. Resolution 1863, approving annual insurance renewals with Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield for health and dental insurance. Need a motion to approve the annual insurance renewal. Colton
Second.
and Jordan.
Cheaper?
Yeah,
100%.
looks like it. Any other discussion?
Yeah, why does it get cheaper when we're on our way out?
Yeah.
Well, the good news is we get this information now, though, instead of the middle of February. When
Yeah,
it's
no
recorded
kidding.
through our,
Budget.
so we got that part improved.
So do our employees pay this, or do we pay
Some
it
of it.
for them?
Our employee, you want me to go through what the costs are and how it's broken down?
Yeah, briefly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it's fine.
We do it.
the present cost, which will expire January 31, are $699.50 was what the single person coverage is to the city. Single people do not pay anything for that cost. The family coverage is $1,748 per family,
Per
of
month?
which
That's a month?
per month, of which the city pays $1,224. In essence, family members pay 30% of their coverage. The city pays 100% of a single person's, and the city pays the single person plus 50% of the difference between a single and the family coverage. So in the new rates for family are going down to $1,540 per month per family. But that's the city, what the city will be billed. The city will pay $1,078. That's their portion. And the employees will save, they make 2 payments a month, and they'll save $30. They'll pay $30 less in each payment. They're going to save $60. That's in essence.
Thank you. Something to add to that for you two, I'm not sure if you are aware, because I think it was before you, but do we still have the option where they can opt out?
Yes.
And receive like a
Yes.
stipend for that?
Yeah, and that is the employees who do not take health insurance can receive half of the premium that the city has charged. So for those of us,
For single.
yeah, well, for single, yeah,
We don't get half of the family, we get half of the
Right, right.
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
The reason for that, Jody, was some people were just, even though they had insurance through their spouse or whatever, they were still taking it just to see which one would work better. So it was essentially saving the city money, plus giving the employees a perk for that. But just wanted to point that out so people understood that too.
So the annual savings in the new program will be $16,000 a year. And Redmond and I had talked, we've talked to some insurance agents about obtaining some disability, changes in our life insurance, and the rates weren't terrible, but because the savings of $16,000 is probably going to go away next year, we thought maybe we could use a little bit of that this year and start a long-term disability program for the employees. That would cost, it's just a long-term, and the 2 rates that I received today, one would start in 60 days. That would be, the rate's about $2,000 a year. The city would pay for it. For a 90-day rate, it was about $1,600 a year. That is, the insurance would become effective after 90 days.
Is that per employee?
No, that's the total cost to the city would be, if it would be the city paying 100% of the cost for 15 full-time employees, and the cost would be around $2,000, just under $2,000. That's.
And then that would only pay
I'm paying $900.
66 and 2/3 of their.
Actually, I think it's,
Or is it the whole?
no, it would pay 60%. This pays 60% with a $5,000 maximum per month. And it's coordinated with Social Security. If a person becomes fully disabled after, when they become eligible for Social Security disability, it would be offset, but you'd still receive the maximum, that
Gordon?
5.
Would that be tax-free, disability? They would have to pay income tax on it?
I'm not a tax person. I can't say. I really can't. I don't know.
It's an insurance payment, so it may not be.
I don't think anything's tax-free.
Yeah.
I can't say whether it would or
Work comp is taxable for sure, now disability, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm sure it's.
Okay, thank you, Gordon.
But anyway, we'd like to have the council
I
consider
think it is.
allowing us to go ahead with this 2,000. If you can have some discussion tonight or at a later time for the,
Seems like a pretty
because we are working on the budget.
Yeah.
Pretty reasonable
Thank you.
cost for a nice benefit.
For the long-term disability,
Yeah.
it's a hell of a deal.
Not that I'll have any say in it, but that's my opinion.
I pay $900 a year for
Well,
myself.
short-term disability isn't that much either.
That is higher.
A little bit higher. Normally, it's a little bit higher.
Well, we did obtain quotes for short-term disability, long-term disability, as well as an increase in life insurance. And if the city were to pay, if the city were to pay for everything, it would be approximately $7,000 a year for all of those.
But we don't know what next year's gonna be like.
I would expect our savings for health insurance to go away.
Yeah, the challenge is it does become a part of your legacy cost, so you have to be a little cautious because you could get
Yeah,
a 20% or 30% or whatever increase next year.
I thought the 2,000 was something that would be affordable. Beyond that, it's really kind of a guess what the heck the city could afford next year.
Is it something we could offer à la carte where they could just pick it themselves? Then that way, if they wanted it, they could pick it and pay for it themselves.
Usually,
I mean,
right.
that would be the way to do it. Then that way we're not stuck forever having to do
Well,
that.
Well, the cost would go up, and I did not ask for a quote for voluntary coverage. This way.
Shop in bulk compared to one thing at a time.
Yeah, if those bulk savings not.
We could look
à la
into it
carte.
though.
Well, I would look into short term and long term and get prices and stuff, just to consider.
Well, I know they like to lock those things in, so having that fluctuation, they'll have to probably overcharge just to, yeah. We're gonna ask that question.
Okay, so for tonight, however, we are considering this,
Just the health insurance.
just the health insurance. We got a motion, right? Colton? Okay, any other discussion? All right, Leslie, let's vote.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk water. Resolution 1864, approving the continuation of the United States Geological Survey stream flow gauging on the Wapsipinnanock Creek at College Street for an annual fee of $8,640. Motion someone, and we'll talk about it. Nick? Second, Jordan?
I think I saw John.
Go ahead.
Got any questions on John with the USGS?
John, okay. You bet you were here last year about this time.
A few years, yeah. So, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think I started this out last time. I was against continuing. But we did it anyway. You must have talked us into it.
I'll give her one to see what happened after the bridge.
Yeah.
That's what we were
That's
wanting
right.
to do.
Yeah, that was about the bridge discussion.
It's about the bridge.
Yeah, so this year was a busy year. Want to thank the Public Works for helping us a few times this summer.
Thing a couple times.
Yeah, we had to move it a couple times. We usually try to get it completely out of the way of the construction, but we were in the way at one point and moved it again. And it's kind of in a temporary location at the moment, right against the bridge, and then we're going to move it now that the sidewalk's done, or just about done. We're going to move it just to off the sidewalk and more of like a sort of an outreach informational kind of structure when you can see in the structure. So the public is kind of aware of what's going on and can see as they're walking back and forth. So should the council approve it another year, we'll move it just off the sidewalk so people can see it. It's more informative of the watershed and what's going on in the river. And again, this is really to get more data with the new bridge. And should the council continue to approve it for a few more years, once we get to 10 years of data, we got about 5 now. I think it started in 2015. Once we get to 10 years of data, that's when we can really start to get better values for your city of what the 100-year flood is, for example, low flow values, and help with development in the floodplain or near the floodplain. So.
Will this data affect flood, like you just said, floodplain designation?
So it could help determine what it could help, yeah. So working with like flood insurance rates, that sort of stuff.
I guess that's what
Yeah. So once we get to that threshold, when we have enough data, we'll get better handles on what those values are here in town. Right now, we have to use these methods of estimation that FEMA would use or us to use to get estimations of like how far the 100-year floodplain is or 500-year. Once we get that data of 10 years, then we can really use the data that we've collected for the 10 years to get better values. So, but we'll go year by year. This is just for one more year.
So the, the data that you've collected since 2015, now that the bridge is widened and all this and that, that data really doesn't count now, does it?
I wouldn't say so because there's multiple uses for the data. It helps us calibrate a model. We could use the old structure, the new structure. We still know what the volume of water is coming down the river. So that volume, it may be different. Say we do cubic feet per second is how we measure. So say it's 1,000 cubic feet per second. That elevation of how high that water is may be different now that the bridge is, but that volume, we have that information from before to model the watershed. So I wouldn't say it's not usable, none, but definitely not. This happens a lot where we have to move a bridge or move a site because of the bridge, so it's certainly usable.
So like if we were to put a retention pond or something in up north, that would affect, I mean...
It could. And then the benefit of having more data is, say another big flood comes this year, for example, we'll have a real world record of what happens with that flood, how the water came through the system, then we can calibrate better a retention structure up there, or if there's one in place, see the real effects of what it did.
Will the model that we've already paid for, will it continue to be affected? Of course it'll continue to be affected, but the model's already done, so we're not going to rewrite the model.
No, so you could
Updated.
you could update the model, yeah. So updating it, and Dave may be able to speak better to this than I can, or if Charlie, the author, were here, could. But you could update the model based on the events that we record from now on. We know what the elevations are, and we've surveyed the whole watershed up and down, so we've got that done already. So we could just update the model. It'd be less work if we had to update the model. Again, if a new flood came through, don't want to see that, but if it does, we'd have great data then to recalibrate the model if the city should choose to go that route.
Be interesting to see the water level versus old bridge versus new bridge data on events to see.
Water level downstream? 'Cause that's where it's
Even
gonna go.
where the bridge is.
Yeah, even.
I'm not so sure that new bridge is gonna help the flooding downstream.
No, it won't.
It might make it worse.
Right, but it might help it in that area. That's what I'd be
Right.
curious to know.
Yeah.
It's the same volume of water, whether the bridge was there before or not.
Right.
The volume of water,
It just-
before it went
just-
up around the bridge, now more will go under.
Yeah.
But still, it's still gonna go around the bridge. That's what it was designed to do. It's still
Right.
going
Well, but
to the
a
west.
certain amount of it's gonna get through there faster than it was
Maybe
when it
remove-
was coming up and going around.
Yeah.
Maybe
At least
some
it's
of
slowing,
them
damming it up a little bit.
You could also see effects downstream where I think the city widened. Was there some widening downstream or some plans to?
Not yet.
There's plans to
Thanks for
widen.
bringing that up.
Okay, sorry. Should I just walk out now? But if that were to happen, you could also see what the real world effects are with that, and then model going forward.
Right.
Jerry.
I guess my question would be is, what would happen if the city didn't use you for, say, a year, and then in, say, 2 years, when widening downstream happens, you come back, what would the cost difference be
Yeah.
to come back?
A couple things would have to happen, unfortunately. So we'd have to have the cost to reinstall it. We have an installation cost that we have. And then right now, so what's not shown here, and I'm not sure if it's in the packets either, is that we're paying, the USGS is contributing about $5,700. So the total cost, the annual O&M for this site is $14,400. May sound like a lot, but we are looking at this every day. We send people out here at least every 6 weeks. If there's a malfunction, we're out right away we're calibrating our measurements of flow every 6 weeks, especially on this channel. It changes quite a bit because of vegetation growth throughout the summer, changes flow calculations quite a bit. So, getting a little carried away here, but so we'd have a reinstallation cost, and then we're also paying that $5,700 a year, which probably wouldn't be available again. We're not really offering that anymore for just strictly a stream gauge, unfortunately, because our funds are getting tighter, but we kind of grandfathered people in that already have it for the time being. So you got us paying 40% of it right now. So if it were to get reinstalled in 2 years, there'd be an installation cost, and then the full 14.4 would unfortunately be on the city, which is pretty hefty probably.
Would you need a new
Yeah.
model too?
What's that?
Would the model need to be redone?
Not for a while, unless there's major changes in the watershed you want to model or plan to model.
Helped us pay for half of that model too.
Yeah,
That was.
What's that?
the park.
Park
National
Service
Park
half the
Service.
model. They paid for half of that.
Thank you.
Cool.
Dave, so if we decided to do some retention basins up north, if we went after some grants and stuff for things like that, would the fact that we are doing this help our chances?
I think the better the data we have and the better the confidence that what we're doing is going to work increases our chances of getting the grant. And if we go through this and we can get to that 10 years where we have a good baseline for using those flows, they're confident that those numbers are accurate because we've collected enough data and our model is calibrated because we've had a few events in there that we can calibrate off of, and we're predicting something based off of that. That's a pretty high level of accuracy that they want to see when they're looking at spending their money on something.
Okay.
Okay, the argument's getting strong.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Again, I don't want to say, you have to do it for this many years, but you're kind of in it for the long haul. At least the 10-year long haul if the city can. Every other year, even if you just get one more and that huge flood comes through, that's great for model calibration and everything. Well,
That's great, yeah.
He likes flood.
But again, getting that 5+ more years of data would be pretty awesome to have for future development and things like that. So
here's my pitch for this, is that we understand that this stream that runs through our community is causing a lot of problems. And we're monitoring it, and we're gonna start working on doing things to improve it. But if we don't keep gauging it, how are we knowing what we're gonna do is working?
Especially isn't that the downtown development area, like we have big ideas for around that area?
Yeah.
So you would want as much
We have a stormwater fee that we collect that's,
Could this come out of stormwater? Obviously it could.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's been coming out of, isn't it? That's what it comes out of. I mean, so, this is why the people are paying the money, is for us to do something with the stormwater.
Okay.
My pitch is we're kind of this far in, it would seem
Yeah, I'm
kind
agreeing
of
with
silly
that.
to not continue at this point,
I think,
especially for the cost that it is.
same thing happened last year. The more data is better, so.
and one thing, I probably can't do it now, but in the future I could talk to Redmond. We do multi-years. I don't know if the city's up for that, but it would lock in. At times our rates go up. We haven't gone up. This is the same cost as last year. We haven't gone up in about 6-7 years, but it could go up potentially a couple $100.
Yeah.
So something we could bring up next year, but for now this is just the 1 year. But
Okay. Any other discussion?
So do we have enough data right now, if we were to do something downstream, that we could actually show that it did help upstream? Or that it,
Yeah, the model shows that. We need to show you the model. I'm not sure she's seen the model. The model will prove that the downstream widening
You'd have to update the model, but
can cut at least 3 inches out of
oh yeah, 6
downtown
inches.
flow,
That's right.
maybe more
Alright,
combined with upstream stuff.
alright.
Am I accurate?
I haven't seen the model, no, but, okay. I've heard.
That's what they use them all to gauge.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess this is still a good deal. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Leslie, let's vote.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Ellison?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
All right. You send us a bill then, next year?
See you again next.
Whenever you want it.
All right, item 6, motion accepting the City of West Branch fiscal year 2020 budget timeline. I didn't look closely at this, so
Well,
I just kind of skimmed over it.
It's
That
very
didn't look
close to last year. What we did do was bring back budget presentations, short ones of high-profile departments. So it'd likely be Public Works, Parks, and PD, and police. And if there's other, I think library wants to sneak in there too real quickly. But, so we want to still do those budget worksheets with the detailed information that we did last year. So you'll still get those, but we'll have some real highlighted short presentations that we'll do as a part of our normal meetings. Then the other thing is state law change, which we can't get around, which is going to be called here max levy. That's going to require us in January to set a public hearing, to do a public notice, and to have a resolution, have a public hearing and then have a resolution on what our max levy for the year will be. So there's an estimating process that we will go through to kind of guess what a max levy could be. The challenging part is if there is something that is unforeseen that comes at us quickly, we have to come back, and if that max levy is not enough, we have to come back and still get it in before March. Now, they allowed us a little bit more time in March, so now we can go to the end of the month just because of that possibility. But it's really smart to do it in January just in case something wacky happens, like the legislature decides they don't want to pay you.
Backfill.
Or some crazy, something like that. Then you can adjust. So our month of January, we have those things in there, but everything else is pretty much the same that we had before. And we just have a little longer time to submit. It's now March 31st versus the 15th. So.
Okay, so we'll start next meeting with the January.
Lineup, yeah.
What else to say? Anything else, anybody?
You got a motion.
Oh, yeah, you're motioning.
There's no motion.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the timeline?
So moved.
Sorry,
Second.
Colton and, Nick. Any other discussion?
I feel like you guys should throw in about 3 or 4 working sessions
Yeah.
in there.
So she doesn't have to be here for
Saturdays?
Saturdays, late evenings.
Either more meetings.
All right, let's vote. Leslie?
Councilperson Miller?
Yes.
Goodweiler?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
Ellison?
Sure, yeah.
All right, item number 7, resolution 1865, accepting the addition of a new drug and alcohol policy for CDL drivers to the overall employee drug and alcohol policy. Okay, give me a motion, someone. Nick and Jordan. I couldn't figure out what was changed here.
There was some language added regarding the establishment of a new drug and alcohol clearinghouse by the,
Okay.
DOT.
the MC,
FMCSA.
Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
So basically got it.
They created this clearinghouse, and so our consultant said we needed, a requirement was we needed to have a policy that dealt with that.
Okay, that's all the
that's
discussion
what-
I need.
So this is just for CDL drivers?
Yes,
That's it?
yes.
Yep. NCLP. Mandatory drug testing.
It's
It's
getting
not,
inserted in the city policy.
it's a federal law,
Yep.
it's not my idea or anything else.
Sounds like a sweepstakes.
Yeah. Clearinghouse.
Yeah.
Well, they called it a clearinghouse.
Yeah, well, remember, all these states are all changing their state laws about what you still can't drive while smoking dope, even if it's legal.
But the city had to register with this clearinghouse on a computer. The next step in the process will be to get the drivers to register too. We have 3 drivers right now, probably we'll have a 4th. They'll have to be registered and provide their information, and I'm supposed to go in and make sure there are no violations for drug or alcohol. That's
Okay, thank you. Let's vote, any other discussion?
It's mandatory, right?
Yeah.
Mandatory, yeah.
It's the law.
Let's vote, Leslie, to accept the mandatory.
Do you have motions?
Yep.
Yeah.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
Stillman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
All right. Redmond.
I think we discussed everything here. I did want to give a little bit of an update on progress with our ECIA Catalyst Grant. So I had a meeting with them. They believe that the project, our downtown redevelopment efforts would fit underneath the Catalyst application. I won't go into a lot of detail, but you can ask me more questions about it since it involves real estate. No need to be chatting it up too much. But so next cycle, I'll probably have some type of proposal from ECIA on that. So I also got a chance to sit down with the Great Places. So their ideas, they were kind of lukewarm on the kiosk idea, although they said they would take, the smaller towns were, they just didn't know what they could really put on there, and but they were going to take it to their city councils. We also had a Great Places staffer there, kind of giving us guidance what they thought would be a good application. They thought the kiosk idea was interesting, but it would probably have to be attached to something else, like maybe a path or something, or a park or something. So they also want to see more artistic, something more artistic.
More cultural.
Cultural, historical,
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. Splash pads have been attempted under this grant and have not done well. But it's not saying that it's not applicable, they just have not gotten funded. And again, the cultural, artistic, and historic kind of thing. So I kind of made a joke of like having Herbert Hoover and water coming out of his ears or something like that. And some people thought that was a really good idea, but I was just kind of joking. But you would need to have some kind of historical draw that if you took that park or that pad out of this community, you couldn't really put it somewhere else and it makes sense. So it would have to kind of be something to this community.
Cedar County historically. He's Cedar County culturally. Is that what they're looking for?
That's what they're looking for. And it's good. That's the challenge in this, because you got so many different communities to tie all that in. It's going to be a challenge. But this is our, so just a reminder, this is the third year that's coming up in, I think we have to have it in August, sometime later in the summer. That's our third crack at it. And then after that, we have to wait 2 years to even try it again. So we're trying to put the best foot forward on that one. So that was it, but I also wanted to announce I was invited to give the keynote speak to St. Ambrose for Martin Luther King celebration. So feel free to come on out on the 20th if you want to see me tap dance in front of a large crowd. I was telling staff I'm real good with technical information, but not so much inspirational. So it's going to be.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, I know.
We record it and put it on the website.
Yeah. Yeah, you could.
Attach it to the city website.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Redmond. Kevin.
Nope.
Anybody else? Staff? Chief Horahan.
We have to make more copies of these, but I think we give everyone here at the table.
Thank you.
Give you guys copies too. Some interesting things happened. As you remember, what we try to do as a police department is we try to put $25,000 a year away in our budget, so at the end of the 2 years we can purchase a squad car. This year, usually we try to order a squad car at the start of the fiscal year, but we were asked to hold off a little bit because of the other funds and other expenses the city was going through. And so we were asked to kind of hold off into around November or so. What happened was it got announced to us that we were supposed to make a bid for a Charger, and we had to have the order the vehicle within a certain length of time, which we did do. So the vehicle was ordered. The downside of it is we were just told by Dodge last week that they could not fill the order. What happened was there's 3,000 more vehicles that got put into the factory to make purchases of vehicles, and we kind of got left out. So a Dodge Charger is not an option. We know what the state bid is on all the vehicles that we're looking at. The Dodge Charger was the cheapest one. What we were trying to do was, Dodge Charger's a very good vehicle, but we were trying to keep the expense down so we could use some of that to purchase additional body cameras with. As a result, on the first page is the cost to outfit the squad car with the trade-in, $46,497, and that's using some other existing equipment. On page 2, you can see the price of state bid as equipped. The Dodge Charger was $26,000, but that order was canceled by the manufacturer. The next cheapest option is the Ram Pickup 1500 SSV four-wheel drive for $32,373. Browns even actually beat the state bid on that. So what our plan is, we're going to purchase the second cheapest vehicle because the first cheapest vehicle is not available. And I think that Dodge Ram pickup truck is a good second option. The reason I say that is because of floods and that kind of stuff. It also has, we had awesome trade-in value on our last truck that we trade off. Originally, we were not thinking of the truck because we were concerned of the public perception, but actually this is a good economical choice for us, and so I just want to let you know that this is just a draft, but we're pretty certain these numbers are pretty accurate. So we will probably be placing an order for a Dodge Ram pickup truck.
Durango for $38,000.
I can't believe that's the next cheapest price.
That's crazy. Yeah.
A lot of people are. I was surprised by that too, and I think everyone is used to these four-wheel drive pickups costing $40,000 and that kind of stuff, but Brown's really gave us a great price, and so I just wanted to be upfront and let you know what took place in case you want to know what happened to the body cameras. There'll probably some money available in that car fund that we'll be able to buy some body cameras. Hopefully we'll have some money left in this fiscal year. If not, we'll have to build it into next fiscal year for the body cameras. But
So it's about $4,000 more than you thought you were gonna spend? Is that all?
Well, when we say 46,000, that is using the existing radio that we have. It's a Harris multi-band radio. That's a $6,000 radio. And it also includes carrying over our computer equipment. Our computer equipment is probably worth $5,000. So we're carrying over quite a bit of money over to use that into this new vehicle we're purchasing. You know, we're not always going to be able to do that. Always being able to take that much equipment and move it into another vehicle. So we're going to continue to move on with the idea. In fact, we might even increase it this year for a budget of $25,000, since we're buying new computers in our squad cars. When we put a new computer in a squad car, when we buy a new squad car, we like to put in a new video camera system, which is around $5,000. And the computer is probably close to another $5,000. Police radio, the multi-band radio, is about $6,000. Actually closer to $7,000 by the time you get it encrypted and everything else. And that's really, we kind of like to do that because since part of our city is in Johnson County and part of it's in Cedar County, we think there's a big advantage to having multi-band radios where we can communicate with both counties. So it's a little pricey radio than what usually you can get a radio for $22, $25. But when you have a multi-band radio, especially when you go P25 and then if you add encryption and stuff, that's even more. Any more questions on that?
What cab did you get? Or what cab are you getting? Is it a crew cab, or does it say on there?
It doesn't say it on there, but it is.
Just kidding.
No,
That's what it was.
I don't know. Okay.
We got awesome trade-in on the last one. I mean, it was
Yeah, I was just curious what cab you were getting in there. Well, I would recommend a crew cab just to have it.
well, the reason we're still using it for prisoner transport, and
Right,
so we.
right.
And,
Yeah, quad cabs don't have much room, so it's worth a little bit extra for the crew.
All right, thank you, Mike and
Yep.
Corey, thank you very much. Anybody else?
I guess I just want to thank everybody, city staff, mayor, council, for putting up with me for 6 years, city staff for all you do and continue to do. I appreciate it. Good luck to the new council members. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and I can lie to you. But I just appreciate everybody, and it's been an interesting, challenging, yet rewarding experience for 6 years. And you may see me back once my kids get a little older, but right now they need it to be priority.
All right.
I'd like to say thank you too. It's been a very educational 8 years, and it makes you definitely learn a different perspective of how the city works and where the money comes from and everything that goes into it. It's just not, oh, well, I paid taxes, so why isn't this happening? That's not how it works at all. So, yeah, it's been good. It's been challenging, but yeah, definitely taking a lot away from it. I'm very grateful for city staff. You guys do a lot that I don't even think the citizens realize, so, yeah, thank you.
I want to thank both of you guys. We've been through a lot together.
Yep,
Yes, we have.
a lot.
Yes,
First
we
meeting will always be in my mind.
Not the sidewalk.
That is,
Yeah.
yep.
Want to do the final request for adjournment? Request for adjournment, anybody?
Request to adjourn, yep.
Pierce and Jordan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.